All right, area of circles. We are going to go through a few examples of area of circles. Some important vocabulary. Area is the amount of space occupied by a 2D object. Think that you're going to cover something. So think about like a cover of a pool, or you're laying grass or something like that. A radius is, you'll notice some really familiar terms from the last lesson. The distance from the edge of circle to the center point of a circle. Diameter is the distance from one edge of the circle to the other edge of the circle, so all the way across. And then pi, the ratio of the circumference to the diameter. It's approximately 3.14. We are going to continue to use 3.14. Here is a different picture that tells you the same thing we did on the last video. And then this one I really like because it does also reiterate the circumference, because if you think about it and you lay all the pieces of a circle out, you can really see the diameter form. Not only that, but area is the like covering the whole thing. And if you break it out like this, you can kind of see a rectangle or a parallelogram where you would do base times height. So here's the formula. This formula is on your formula chart. You'll probably end up memorizing it because you'll use it so much, but you can always fall back on your formula chart if needed. How does the area of a circle compare to the area of a square? So let's look at this. The area of a square is base times height, right? And if it's a square, we know the height and the base are both the same. So 4 times 4 is the same thing as 4 squared, which in turn equals 16. Now think about it. If I have this circle and it also has a diameter of 4, I could technically take this circle and put it in here. If I did that, would it fill up the same amount of space? Sorry, that was a terrible circle, but you kind of get the point. Would it fill up the same amount of space? No, it would not, because you wouldn't have any of these corner pieces. So area equals pi r squared, which is 3.14 times r, which if my diameter is 4, then my r is 2. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and solve that. 3.14 times 4. When I multiply by 4, it's going to give me 12 and 56/100. Okay, so see how this one was 16 and this one's 12 and 56/100? It's because you had to subtract out all these side pieces that aren't in the circle. Okay. Alrighty, so what is the area of this circle? Well, what did they give us right here? They gave us the distance all the way across, so that's diameter. Our formula is pi r squared. It doesn't have diameter in there anywhere. And r squared is not the same thing as r times 2. So we're going to go ahead and start out by finding our radius, which is half of our diameter, which in this case is 6. So if I use that, and that's why I said it's easier to just remember the one formula for circumference and then remember the one formula for area. That way you can always jump back and forth between your radius and diameter very easily, and you don't accidentally make mistakes. 3.14 times 6 times 6, which is 36. I'm going to skip all of the long multiplication on the screen just for time purposes, because I've already kept you here quite a bit. But just trust that I did it by hand on my paper over here. And we get 113 and 400ths, and that would be centimeters squared. So it's all really about plugging it into the formula and then applying basically GEMDAS to solve, knowing that your exponent needs to be before you multiply. But it's formula after formula after formula after formula. Same here. What's the area of your circle? So A equals pi r squared. There's a lot of decimals because of the 3.14. But like I said in the last video, if your answer choices aren't super close together, you can kind of just round. I know that 3 times 3 is 9. And I know that 3 times, oh, hold on. We have to think differently. I know that 3 squared is 9 times 3 is 27. Oops. And then I know that 4 squared is 16. 16 times 3. What is 16 times 3? 48. So I know that this answer has to be between 27 and 48. So if you're not great with decimals, find what it should be in between and at least knock out those answer choices to kind of help you out. If I went ahead and multiplied this, 3.5 squared is the equivalent of 12.25. Then I'm going to multiply that by 3.14, and that gives me a total of 38.465. And if you'll look back over here, that falls directly in between 27 and 48. So my estimation was accurate. All right. If the area of a circle is 100 square centimeters, what is the radius? So we know our formula, and I write it on every slide, which you should too. Plug in what you know. If area is 100 square centimeters, and we know pi is 3.14, what did they not give us? The radius. Can I square the radius if I don't have it? No, so I'm going to leave it alone. Now I'm going to solve it like an equation. We did equations a couple weeks ago. The whole point is to isolate this variable. So if 3.14 is being multiplied times r squared, then I need to divide it. Okay, this becomes 1, so we're left with r squared. 100 divided by 3.14. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. And it gives me 31.85. We'll just use 31.85. But that's equal to r squared. So we need to know what number times itself gives us 31.85. And you'll notice that most calculators, whoops, had a glitch, have this square root button, and it gives me the square root of 31.85, which is 5.64. So r equals 5.64. If you think about it, 5 times 5 is 25, which is less than this. 6 times 6 is 36, which is more than this. So it makes sense that our radius would fall right in between those squares. Okay. Last example. If the area of a circle is 50 square inches, what is the diameter? Okay. So we have 50 is the area. We know it's pi r squared. We need to tell ourselves that we're looking for diameter, because remember that's 2 times the radius. And this answer is going to give us the radius because we don't have a formula with diameter. Okay, so like we did in the last question, we're going to divide by pi. Divide by pi. And now we're left with r squared. 50 divided by, whoops, doing something crazy. I got a lot of calculators open. 50 divided by 3.14 is 15.92. But we need the square root of that, which, what is 15.92 really close to? 16. 16 happens to be a perfect square. So our radius equals 4. But remember, they're not asking for our radius. They're asking, I don't know what's happening to my computer screen. Sorry about that. It's doing all kinds of crazy things. They're asking for our diameter. So we need to plug our radius in to find our diameter. 2 times 4 is 8. So in this case, our diameter is 8. All right, you guys, good luck on your lessons.